Hey y'all, I'm Gresham,
I'm Corey.
and we are Two Girls and Jesus. We are here today to bring y'all week 5 of our dig on relationships. Corey, I'm gonna need something when we're done with this theme. When this series is over, I'm gonna need something. I don't know what, but I'm gonna need something.
Well, sorry, I kind of have a little scratching throat, so bear with me. Um, it puts a lot in my head. And I mentioned at the end of last week that I was surprised how easy it was to not focus on just a husband-wife relationship, but the things that it has me thinking about that are so far outside of that husband-wife relationship, my friends, my family, even like I don't know, teachers and people that you have relationships with on a daily basis. It's kind of been all over the place.
Yeah, it really has. And it's made me think about, remember and think about lots of things that have happened throughout my life that I don't really want to remember, much less talk about, you know. But I guess on a good side is I have been able to ask, I've remembered some things that I did wrong, and I've been able to ask forgiveness for those things. At the time, I didn't think I was doing anything wrong, but I know now that I was.
Wow, that's I haven't done that yet, but I'll work on making sure that I'm getting right with myself too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right. Well, our first verse for this week is Colossians 3:13. Do you want to go or you want me to go?
Go ahead.
Okay. So I use the NLT. It says, make allowance for each other's faults and forgive anyone who offends you. Remember, the Lord forgave you, so you must forgive others. Here we go with that again. It seems like we have done that one, not this specific one, but we've done a verse just about every dig we've done that has a verse that uses these words,
Yes.
you know? So and that tells me that it's super, super important to God.
Yeah.
Um, no one is perfect except Jesus. The only perfect person on earth was Jesus. We all have faults, all of us do. And we should just simply show the same grace to others as we want others to show us. And this is one of those that's just that simple.
So mine is the NIV, and it's worded just slightly different. Bear with each other and forgive one another. If any of you have a grievance against someone, forgive as the Lord forgave you. So you've talked about loopholes before, right? And so loophole me wants to say, but what they did was so horrible.
Right.
But how can you forgive them? It's not forgivable. Don't you realize how awful what they did was? How can you forgive them? Like that's what loophole me thinks that other people are just doing unforgivable, but if it's a sin, it's a sin. It's just really difficult. And I think that we've talked about this before, just maybe not last week, the week before, to where there are some things that are just so much worse than other sins, even though we're taught that they're not. Um, and maybe because I can't get into the mindset of the person who would do such a terrible thing, that's why I don't understand it and have so much problem with forgiving it. But um what I wrote down and highlighted was that we're being told over and over, like you said earlier, how many verses have we gone through that have talked about forgiveness? Forgive as the Lord forgave you. And so I have to remind myself that I'm not any more special than any other sinner. And if I want to be forgiven, I have to learn to forgive.
Yeah. something that stuck out to me on this verse where it says, and forgive anyone who offends you. Anyone means anyone, believers, non believers, atheists, devil worshippers. You know, if they offend me, then I have to forgive them. And forgiveness, what this verse says to me above everything else is that forgiveness is forgiving them is for me, not for them.
Right.
And when I get in the headspace like what you were talking about, that's what I have to remind myself. It's not for them, it's for me. And it is really, really hard sometimes because our minds can't understand some of the evil things that people do that affect us.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
another verse that we're going to get to today that kind of talks about that also. Um, because apparently relationships are all about forgiving.
Yeah, apparently. Apparently. Well, all right, you have anything else for this verse?
No, that's it.
No? Why don't you take our next one?
So the next one was Proverbs chapter 17, verse 9. The NIV version says, whoever would foster love covers over an offense, but whoever repeats the matter separates close friends. The first thing that I thought of when I heard this was gossip. Like that was just the first thing that popped in my mind because if you keep repeating things, and you're just putting it out there into the world, right? But then kind of dug a little bit deeper and I thought, is it gossiping about other people or is it repeating what somebody has done to me over and over and over in my mind? That is actually what separates me from those people because I let it just consume me and kind of take me over, thinking about what they did that was wrong to me instead of maybe all the things that they did that were good for me. So the verse kind of confused me a little bit.
Yeah, I looked up, of course I use the NLT, and I use the easy version and the New American Standard version. And the one that I honed into was the NASB. One who conceals an offense seeks love, but one who repeats a matter separates close friends. I don't know why I honed in on that one because I really didn't get understanding from that one any more than the NLT. So of course then I looked up Old Trusty, our easy version. And it says, if you forgive people when they hurt you, they will still love you. But if you continue to talk about what they have done, they will no longer be your friends. And I wrote up under that verse, I said, so.
Right, because you want them to be your friends. And that is
Right.
something that I put in here was that continuing to excuse bad behavior from someone most likely means you aren't loving and respecting yourself. So what you're saying there is, so what? Let these people go if they don't want to hear about what they did to me, how they made me feel.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about last week when we were talking about you have been told to let people know how you feel, let them know what you need from them. And now this is saying, nah, you don't do that. You're gonna lose your friends.
Well, the way I took that is that, we're now 3 months down the road, we're 6 months down the road, we're 9 months, 12 months, and every so I keep bringing this up, and it's causing contention in my relationship. But in my brain, if I'm still bringing it up, it's not settled with me. I still feel like there's something that needs to be said about this or something needs to be talked about this. And what I ended up saying, what I ended up writing down was that if I can't get over whatever that fault is, then I should just move on from the relationship or remove myself from the relationship. If I can't get over it, I just need to move on, you know, because it is damaging me to be in this relationship now.
What do you think it
Um,
is that keeps us stuck in those relationships, though?
yes, because the love that they're talking about here, remember the other week, was it last week or the week before, when we talked about the different kinds of love? The kind of love that they're talking about here is the agape love. So it's the divine love. Okay. When it says, the NLT says love prospers when a fault is forgiven, that's because we're showing the love of God. We're showing agape love. Whether we think they deserve forgiveness or not, our God commands us to forgive, right? And so we're showing agape love. It's so to me, when I reread it, knowing what kind of love they were talking about made a difference to me. I wasn't reading it through the love that you have for your friends, your family, your spouse, whatever. Um, that doesn't, just because I forgive them, it doesn't mean they're going to love me more. That is not what this is talking about. All I'm doing is showing them the love of God by forgiving them, for whatever they did. And I also put in here that, because I said, so I'm a little upset at how this is worded. I said, a person does not get to hurt me and then dictate if I talk about it or not.
Yeah. Well, and then how do we find that moment of how do we get to the place where we can finally let it go? Where, and I guess that depends on the type of love also, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I would think so.
because if we could just forget, we wouldn't bring it up. There'd be no reason. But when somebody hurts you deeply or does something so offensive, it's hard to just forget. Even if you forgive, you say, I'm forgiving this, something's going to make it come back to your head at
Well,
some point.
because there's different layers, right?
Yeah.
Especially if someone hurts you, like cuts you to your bone, they hurt you so bad that that you physically feel your heart hurting. Okay. There are different layers to that. And I think, if it keeps getting brought back up, that's because you've thought of another aspect of that fault. Okay. That thing they did
Yeah.
that is on a different layer than the thing you talked about 2 months ago. So I think if we're still bringing it up, it's because another layer of it is unfolding, is peeling away, if you will. And now we need clarification about this one thing. And so I think that's when our communication skills come in, and we can acutely, specifically, I'm not talking about, let's just say someone stole money from you. Okay. I'm not talking about the fact that you stole the money. I'm talking about right now, why did you steal the money? Why didn't you just ask me? Were you trying to hide something from, that's a whole different layer than,
Right.
than the overall thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's sticky for me.
Yeah.
Because
I
I'm
think
around.
I think of everything that we've done, this one's been the hardest for me to, and I shouldn't say make sense of, but that is kind of what I mean. Like, I can't make myself understand why this matters. Like you said, so what? Those
Yeah.
friends, are they really my friends? Do they really need to be a part of my life? If they're going to do this to me, if they're going to harm me this way, and this is saying yes, and I just don't know about that. Maybe
Yeah.
it's not saying yes. I don't know. Proverbs are interesting. They're almost like, well, I mean, I guess they are kind of parables, but it's I don't know. It's almost like they're saying the opposite sometimes of what it is. I don't
Well,
know.
you have to
It feels
remember.
really tricky.
Yeah, and one thing that you have to remember, Proverbs and the Psalms, there's some really good stuff in there. There's some really good life lessons in there, but it's poetry, and they were humans
Yeah.
dealing with very human things. And, you know, we talked about last week, vengeance is not ours. Vengeance belongs to the Lord, right?
Yeah.
And so you see a lot in Psalms where David is saying, God, kill them all right now because they hurt my feelings. You know, they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. Hang them, you know, do really bad things to them. You know, and I I can't remember the specific psalm that a preacher was preaching about one Sunday, but he was like, you know, we do need to pray to God, but not like that. And they're to show us that our human feelings, it's okay to have those, and it's okay to talk to God about them. But it is not doctrine.
Yeah.
So if we can't, you know, whoever wrote this proverb, you know, maybe they finally got to a place where they were okay in the relationship, whatever relationship it was. Maybe they finally got to that place that they were okay.
They
It's
finally let it
not,
go.
we don't know how long it might have took though,
Right.
you know. They're telling us, you know, love prospers. When I forgave that fault, I showed him the love of God. But me dwelling on it separates us. That doesn't mean that it wasn't you who did the separating, you know?
Yeah.
So that's just something to think about with the Psalms and the Proverbs.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have anything else for this verse?
Nope, that's it.
Oh, I do. Can I say one more thing? I forgot
Yeah.
about this. I'm sorry.
Okay.
And for me with this verse, it depends on what I'm forgiving. It depends on what they did. There are some things I know myself well enough that I'll never get over that. I know that about myself. So I forgive you, but I'm gone. You know, you do you and I'm gonna do me, but we're not gonna do us no more. Um, you know, some things that I can forgive and keep on going, some things I can forgive, but then the relationship's a little different because maybe I don't trust them as much. I'm not as open with them as I used to be, you know? Um, and then some things I can forgive and then I sever that relationship. So, and that's going to be different for everybody, you know? So I think that's
My
important.
my my biggest one for being able to forgive somebody, or I should say for not being able to, having a much harder time with it is when there's deception involved. So
Absolutely.
it's not a lie that was maybe to try to protect you, not quite tell you what was going on. But it's something where you looked me in the face over and over and lied. And even other people, friends who knew things and didn't say anything, like that's deception. That's just straight up. I don't know where the line is between protecting someone's feelings and deceiving them outright, but
Yeah.
there is a line, and that's the hardest one for me to move past.
Yeah, I can agree with that because it makes you question everything else they're telling you.
Right. There's no trust is gone.
Right.
If you can look me in the face and outright lie, that trust is wounded beyond repair.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
I mean,
know.
it would be really nice if we had some verses on how to forget things that people do. You know, not necessarily
or
forget the
repair.
act, but forget the feeling. You
Right.
know, like because I always feel like when someone's deceiving me, they think I'm stupid,
Hmm.
you know, and I am not, I don't hold an important enough position in their life for them to tell me the truth.
Right. So
But go ahead.
maybe we need one on repairing and restoration.
Yeah, for real. But for a lot of years, I was a runner. Somebody did something and I couldn't deal with it. I'm gone. I'm gone because I know I'm not going to believe anything else that comes out of your mouth ever. Doesn't matter what it is. You could tell me the sky's blue and I'm not going to believe you.
Yeah.
So, I think it depends on, what, how, what you have to forgive. But I
Right.
also, um, the NLT, let's see, the NLT used the word fault. And so a fault isn't necessarily something being done bad towards you. It's like chewing with your mouth open, smacking gum, blowing bubbles with gum. Those people that they put their tongue through the gum and push it out like they're going to blow a bubble, but they end up sucking it back in. I just want to punch those people in the face. I really do. I really, really do. Um, to me, that's a fault. And if I love you, I can get past that. But I don't have to forgive you for that. I have to forgive you for being rude and getting on my nerves. Do you know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But especially if, I've had the conversation and that person says, look, I have to do that. It helps my jaws if I do that. Then
Yeah.
I have to be okay with it. I can't keep bringing it back up that when you do that with that gum, I just want to punch you in the face. I can't keep, if it's helping that person, if that person's doing it for a reason and I love that person, what is it that they say? You have to love, if you love somebody, you love everything about them,
Yeah.
not just the good parts, you
You mean
know?
like when my husband leaves the cabinet doors open or the dresser drawer not closed all the way and I have to walk behind and push them all closed?
Uh-huh. With
That's a
socks
fault.
hanging out the
See, I can
door.
forget that. I can forgive that. It's fine.
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
I just fix
So
it.
yeah, so we're just talking about a fault in people because we're human. We all have faults, you know.
Right.
Um, I mean, believe it or not, I am not perfect. I know you guys have a hard time believing that, but I am not. Um, if we're just talking about faults, this I can do that easy.
Yeah.
But like the easy version, when they hurt you, depends on what they did.
Right.
You know, did they didn't pick me up and put me over a mud puddle and my brand new shoes got muddy? I can forgive that, you know. But you hurt my heart and I struggled to get over that.
Yeah. Me too.
Forgive them. Anyway, anything else?
Nope. That's it.
Okay. All right. The next verse is Galatians 5:13. You want me to go or you want to go?
Go ahead.
Okay. NLT, for you have been called to live in freedom, my brothers and sisters, but don't use your freedom to satisfy your sinful nature. Instead, use your freedom to serve one another in love. Um, we are free to make whatever decision we want to make, right? Whether it's a sinful decision or not a sinful decision, but we are not free from the consequence of those decisions. So if I make a sinful decision and I repent and I ask God for forgiveness, I am forgiven. But that doesn't mean he's going to take the consequence of that decision away from me.
Right.
And I'm just going to be real honest here. In the past, I didn't ask forgiveness until the consequence had presented itself because I didn't want the consequence. I wanted the consequence gone, you know? And that's just being, immature Christian, being young as
Yeah.
well. Um, but I mean, we're even held accountable for sins we don't even know that we committed. And I'm not going to remember, but there is a verse that specifically speaks about that. So, every so often I'll pray and God, please forgive me for the sins I don't even know I've committed. You know, um, it's kind of like you talking about gossip earlier. When people what's the word? I'm not going to know the word.
Preface.
Yeah. When they preface, not meaning to gossip, this isn't gossip, but blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it is. Don't
It's
matter.
not gossip if I'm telling the truth.
Yes,
I
it
hear that a
is.
lot. I hear that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. It very much still is gossip. It's not your story to tell, you know? Um, but there are some people that really believe as long as they preface what they're saying with that it's not gossip. And they don't ever ask forgiveness for that. Because they don't think they need forgiveness. They didn't do anything wrong. Isn't that crazy?
I mean, some people think gossip is not their sin.
You're right.
Um, the NIV version of this was titled Life by the Spirit. And it said, "You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free, but do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh. Rather, serve one another humbly in love." I wrote this in light colored ink. So, what I said was that they indulge the flesh. It made me think of the people who reword the Bible for their fitting, and made me think of people who are like in cults and things like that. Just like indulge the flesh seems very, I don't close to evil. I don't know. It just seems very off-putting. Um, but I also think that just because we have free will doesn't make it okay when we want to do these things
No.
because we have free will and we can do whatever we want. Because ultimately, it still comes back to, it says serve one another humbly in love. So the way that Jesus lived his life was very humble. He was around plenty of sin and didn't partake. Where some of us, when we're around some sinful natures, that makes us want to, it looks fun, right?
Right.
So we want to go down that same path. I think that he just, Jesus wants us to live the life closer to where he lived it than maybe where we currently are.
Yeah.
And if you're not, even if you're constantly in like a church environment constantly, there's so much evil that gets inside of the church, which is why so many people turn against it because they think that everybody's a hypocrite. And it's not, it's just that everybody's a sinner in one way, shape, or form. And sometimes our weaknesses show through and we're able to let people take advantage because they see that. They see that in us. They see that they can take advantage of us. And maybe there's an evil part of them that's making them do these things they don't even really want to do. So it's all kind of just this vicious cycle. And the title, Life by the Spirit, is reminding me that just keep thinking of where you came from, where you are headed, right? I mean, that we want to be in heaven,
Yeah.
but the life that we live is either going to take us there or keep us from there.
Exactly.
Did you have anything else on Galatians?
Um, the serving others, that is such an important aspect of being a follower of Jesus. Jesus did a lot of teaching, a lot of reading of the scrolls in the temples. He also did a lot of serving other people. And I'm just going to use this. I know some women are probably going to be like, but I'm just using it as an example. Um, I am or was the wife that if I was cooking supper and my husband was in the living room in his recliner, I would make his plate and bring it to him. Not because he expected it. He always seemed a little shocked when I did it, and he was always thanked me for doing so. Um, I did not feel like a slave. I did not feel any type of way about it. I didn't even feel, I mean, why would I not? I'm already in there making my plate. Just make his. I'm coming to the same place he's sitting now. You just bring him his plate. It's not a big deal, you know? Um, and I know that, that's a simple representation of serving another. But when you are in relationships, sometimes the best acts of service are those little bitty acts of service, you know?
So I
It
would
doesn't,
say this, if it was an expectation for you to do that, if he expected it, then that's totally different. I know that my husband and I take turns depending on what's being cooked.
Mhm.
Um, we love each other and we serve each other in different ways. So it is a different, but even if well, you said you didn't expect it from me.
No, he
You
didn't
were,
expect
you were
it.
literally just being a kind, loving wife.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
It's okay, but
yeah,
sometimes the act of service is your way of showing love.
yeah, yeah, it
So,
very much is. And that is one of the love languages, you know? Um, but, to me, it's more, and when you're talking about relationships, instead of some huge grand gesture, it's the little things, washing his clothes, just because I would prefer to be the one washing the clothes because he jacked them up every time he did it.
right.
Um, just little things like that. But I do have a funny story. Do we have time for me to tell a funny story?
Always.
Okay, you've probably heard this before, but Luke's dad, when he and I were married, um, Luke was really little, and I had picked him up from daycare, and I was gonna stop and get gas. Because I had work the next morning and didn't want to stop in the morning. And for some reason, I don't know if I just forgot or if there was a reason why I didn't stop, but later that evening, I remembered, oh man, I forgot to get gas. Oh man, I don't want to stop and get it in the morning. So I asked my husband, I said, would you please run my car up and put some gas in it so I don't have to do it in the morning? Because Luke was still so little, I wouldn't leave him in the car even for a minute by himself. So I don't have to get the baby out and then go in and pay and then come back out. And he looked at me and he said, you know what? I don't drive your car, so I don't really think I should have to put gas in it. And I was like, okay.
Is that when you
Okay.
decided? Just kidding.
Yeah. I was like, okay, yeah, hence the reason we divorced. I was like, okay. And I didn't say anything else about it. And I don't know, a few days later, he and I were sitting outside talking about something. And he said, oh, by the way, when are you going to wash clothes? And I was like, I mean, my clothes are washed. My clothes are in the dryer right now. He was like, oh, are you doing mine next? And I said, I don't wear your clothes, so I really don't think I should be the one to wash them.
Good
And
lesson.
he got the biggest smile on his face. And we laughed about that forever, because it was really funny. But I was thankful that it didn't cause an argument, honestly. But I'll never forget how big he smiled when I said that because, was that me taking vengeance? Mm-mm, no, I was teaching you a lesson. We do for each other. We serve each other. We're in this together. We made this baby together. We're in this together.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was my funny story.
Well, we only have one verse left for
Yes,
today.
we do. And it's a doozy.
You want me to start?
Yeah, you take this one.
Okay. It's Proverbs chapter 12, verse 22. The NIV version says, the Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in people who are trustworthy. I wrote, Amen. Me too, God. Me too. Um, I read the other versions and they were all pretty similar. But the end of the easy version says, "The Lord hates people who tell lies, but he is pleased with people who do what they promise to do."
Yes.
Um, it made me feel good to read that the Lord detests something, because I feel like I detest a lot of things, and it makes me feel, or makes him feel more human to me.
Yeah.
That he can feel that way, and maybe he didn't understand that until Jesus came and lived as, the human that he was amongst all of us, to see
Right.
how hard it is to live our daily lives, because we make it hard. Get that straight. But I went down this whole rabbit hole of thoughts on all of that, and I said, he lived amongst all of us while remaining good. He didn't tell lies. Um, the part on the ending where it says, "Do what they promised to do." Um, That's all we're asking, right? You told me that you were going to do something. And if it's something where it's just, "Oops, I forgot. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant to do that and I didn't do that." But when you outright lie, whew, that's totally different. We talked about it just a couple of verses ago.
Yeah.
That's the hard one for me. And when that trust is broken.
Yeah. Or when they never do what they say they're going to do. If it's repetitive, you
Yeah.
know, it just an accident. Oh my gosh, I forgot.
Mhm.
That happens to the best of us. But that over and over telling me you're going to do something and it never gets done, you never do it, you never show up. That I can't deal with that. Just
So
can't.
was the NLT version very different, or did you choose a totally different one?
I use the NLT and the easy. The NLT says the Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in those who tell the truth. And then you've already read the easy. Um, and it seems like this should be pretty easy, until it comes to telling a lie to save someone's feelings. Which I find myself, because I'm a teacher, I find myself in that situation a lot. Um, I mean, does God hate me because of that? We call them white lies. You
Yeah.
know, like I don't know where white lies come from, but um, I really struggle with this because I know, especially if it's a student of mine, because the majority of them have emotional behavior disorders. And if I tell them the truth, they're going to pick up a chair and throw it. They're going to bang their head on the wall. They're going to get in the floor and throw a fit. So I choose, because it's easier on me to tell the white lie, you know, and to save all that from happening. And so when or even if it's a friend, "Oh, how does this outfit look or this lipstick color?" And you are like, "Girl, you do not need to wear that color." I try to be so gentle that I don't like the color. I personally don't like it and never comment on what it's like on them. You know what I mean? Um, I try really hard to always be truthful, but I am not going to on purpose willingly hurt somebody's feelings. I am just not going to do that. I'm just not. Um, so I think this is where it comes down to God sees your heart in a matter,
Mhm.
at least I hope he does.
Well,
Um,
maybe the lying lips is speaking more to someone who is always a liar.
yeah,
Maybe.
yeah. And I always when we talk about lying, I always think of Abraham and Sarah. They told lies. They told the same lie twice,
Yeah.
you know? And both times Abraham had a reason for it. There was a reason why he lied. And God held the people that he lied to accountable. So I don't know. I'm not saying that gives you a green pass to just go on telling all kinds of lies all over the place. Absolutely not. But, you know, if I have to tell somebody that I think they're the best human being ever to save your life, that's what I'm just going to tell them, regardless if I think that or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So this one, you can go down a rabbit hole on this one very easily, which I did.
me too.
Yeah. So I don't know. What do you think about, I guess, the white lies? Like, I don't want God to hate me, you know?
So I don't know. It's all very gray because you can
Yeah.
say, well, I don't want to hurt their feelings. Well, if you know that something's going on and you're not telling that person, it's going to hurt them a lot worse when they find out the truth.
Oh, and they'd
Um,
even be double hurt if they found out you knew and didn't tell them.
right.
Yeah,
So,
that's clear cut right there. I think
right.
we would
So,
agree.
so that's why I'm saying it's gray. How do you know when that white lie is going to come back to bite you in the ass?
Yeah, true. I don't know. I don't know. So that brings me to another question that I had written down, and I just wrote the question. I was like, I am not even going down this rabbit hole. But when you don't tell people things, like if there was something that happened to one of your friends and you just don't want to get involved, you don't want to be in the middle of that because maybe your other two friends are fighting, they got in an argument and you're just I'm not saying anything. I'm staying out of this, but you're not telling a side of it that you know. Is that a lie? By not like a lie of omission, just not saying it?
That's how people get away with a lot of things, right? They just say, "Oh, well, you didn't ask that,
Right.
but you knew it."
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, a lot of times we do things, we withhold something from somebody because we don't want to cause them pain. We don't want to see them have to go through pain. The biggest problem is when it comes back later, and even if they don't know that you knew and you're hearing about it and you see the hurt and the pain that they're in, you knew. And so how do you justify that with yourself? And it's never going to come out, right? Only you and God know, and the person who did whatever, if they know that you saw the offense. But I that's why it's all so gray to me.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And, in
When
my experience, the person who gets caught with what you knew about, they always point the finger, well, so and so knew it too.
yeah,
Like, why, I wanted to stay out of this. Why are you dragging me in this now? You know, they always point the finger to try to deflect and get the focus off of them onto somebody else. So they'll run you under the bus like that,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. It's very difficult to determine also when is it your time to keep your mouth shut and when is it your time to speak up. And I guess it depends on, is it harming that person more to know, less to know? Is this an ongoing thing that's continually happening and that person has no idea? Of course, it's going to hurt them terribly when they find out, and undoubtedly they do.
Right,
And then they're mad at everybody and they don't trust anybody because everybody knew and nobody said anything.
right. And, maybe a better question to ask is me saying this or not saying this, is that junking me up with God or not?
Right, because where's
You
the line
know,
between gossip and
right.
more gray?
Yeah, yeah. I don't, yeah, that one was a doozy for me just because it's so gray. And that's why I finally just got to the point I hope God sees our hearts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I
So,
just say that this week feels undone to me? Like these four verses feel like they have so many questions still.
yes. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like every one of these, there hasn't been a finality to it.
Yeah.
And I felt that when we were doing them originally too. And I don't like that. When I can't reconcile my human life back to these verses, I don't like that.
Yeah.
Because it just like it just feels just open-ended. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't like not knowing.
Me either. Let's hope next week clears this
I
crap
know,
up.
right? Really. All right. Well, you guys, like always, please like, share, subscribe, squeeze the lemons, tap the heart to like, share, invite a friend to our Facebook page. We've opened up, Corey, you've opened up a chat group on the page so that if someone,
Yeah.
only
be
the
honest.
members get to see, right?
I'll be honest. I don't know how I did that,
Oh,
but I'll, it's just you, me, and someone else right now.
right.
But maybe we can get something going.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how I did
Tech
that.
support, tech support. We need our person.
I don't know what I did, but
But, that's the whole group can't see that. It's just the people who joined that chat. So that would be a really great place to, if you had something private or personal you wanted to ask about or talk about, you could have mine and Corey's perspective at the same time. You wouldn't have to do that separately.
or you can do a separate. Either way.
Yeah, you
Together
can do
or
a separate,
separate.
of course. You can message us through Messenger separately, of course. But if you want both of us together, that's the way to do it. All right. Well, thanks, guys, for joining us. Join us next week. It's gonna be a good one.
It's gotta be
Bye.
better than this one.
Yeah.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.